Don't come home. My daughter cried while I was in intensive care. A week later, the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like angry wasps. I lay in the ICU staring at the ceiling tiles, counting the tiny holes, anything to distract from the wires snaking across my chest and the steady beep of the heart monitor. 3 days had passed since the heart attack. My phone vibrated on the metal tray beside me. Jennifer's name flashed across the screen. Dad. Her voice was tight, impatient. Not the tone you'd expect when calling your father in intensive care. Tomorrow's Brian's birthday party. We need you to come help with the setup. I shifted against the starched hospital sheets, wincing as pain shot through my chest. Honey, I can't. I'm still at Providence. The doctors say. What do you mean you can't? Her voice climbed an octave. We've got 40 people coming. The caterer needs directions. The tent company is asking questions. And Brian's mother expects everything perfect. Through the phone, I heard Brian in the background. Tell him we need the good chairs from the garage. My hand trembled slightly as I gripped the phone. The heart monitor's beeping quickened. Jennifer, I had a heart attack. I'm in the cardiac unit. They're running more tests tomorrow morning. Silence. Then you're always making excuses when we need you. Always. The words hit harder than any physical pain. I thought about the $1,200 Italian espresso machine I bought last month that she insisted Brian needed for his coffee consulting business. A business that lasted exactly 3 weeks. I'm not making excuses, I said quietly. I'm lying in a hospital bed with an 4 in my arm. Fine, her voice turned to ice. Then don't bother coming home at all. We don't need someone who can't be there when family needs them. The line went dead. I stared at the photo of Jennifer on my phone, the one of her at 16, braces gleaming, holding her first-place science fair trophy. That girl wouldn't have hung up on me. My finger hovered over her contact. Then I pressed block. The shift. The nurse, a kind woman named Patricia, checked my vitals. Everything okay, Mr. Bishop? Your heart rate spiked a few minutes ago. Just family drama, I said, forcing a smile. Nothing life-threatening. After she left, I lay in the darkness. My mind drifted back, trying to pinpoint when everything changed. 3 years ago, Jennifer and Brian showed up at my house on Southeast Ankeny Street with 17 boxes and sheepish smiles. Just until we get back on our feet, Dad. 6 months tops. 6 months became 3 years. I'd paid off her $15,000 credit card debt. I bought Brian all his equipment. Last fall, I spent 2 months and $8,000 renovating the bathroom with the Italian marble she insisted on. When I finished, she barely looked up. Thanks, Dad. Brian says we still need to replace the vanity though. 35 years I'd worked for Portland's urban planning department, helping preserve historic buildings and redesigning traffic flow. I had 3 mayoral commendations. But to my daughter, I was just the man who couldn't help set up a birthday party. My house, the craftsman-style home I bought in 1998 for $280,000, was now worth over $650,000. Was in my name. Everything was in my name. I picked up my phone again. My next-door neighbor, Clarence Adams, was a real estate lawyer. I typed out a message, "Got time for a visit? Need some advice on property law." His response came quickly, "Visiting hours tomorrow, 2 p.m. I'll bring coffee. The good stuff, not hospital sludge." I smiled for the first time that day. Some essential rope that had been holding me in place had snapped cleanly. I felt lighter, clearer. 7 more days of recovery. 7 days to think very carefully about what came next. Hot beverage, the bitter truth. Clarence arrived the next afternoon, carrying 2 paper cups from Stumptown Coffee. He settled into the vinyl chair. "You look terrible," he said, handing me the perfect cup of coffee. "Heart attack will do that." "So what happened?" Clarence's expression turned serious. "Jennifer said you had a minor episode when I saw her at New Seasons last week." She said. "She said what?" "Yeah, I ran into her and Brian at the grocery store. They were loading up on expensive cuts of meat, wine, premium stuff. Said they were planning a celebration." He paused. "That was 4 days before your heart attack, Vernon. The party was tomorrow, right?" The beeping on my monitor picked up tempo. I forced myself to breathe. They knew I was sick. While I'm hooked up to machines, they're celebrating. "There's something else," Clarence shifted uncomfortably. 2 weeks ago, I saw them returning from somewhere, tanned, happy. Brian was pulling designer luggage from a taxi. They went on vacation. Looked like it. I asked Jennifer how the trip was, and she got this deer-in-the-headlights look. Said it was just a quick weekend thing. Clarence pulled out his phone. I checked my Ring camera footage. They were gone for 8 days. Hawaii probably. Or Mexico. Somewhere with beaches and umbrella drinks. While I'd been replacing the water heater they said was making weird noises. A $1,400 fix that could have waited another year. I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. I'm fine, Clarence. I'm absolutely fine. I set down the coffee cup. Tell me something. If someone's been living in your house rent-free for 3 years, what are your options? Clarence leaned back. In Oregon you'd file for eviction. Without a lease, they're considered tenants at will. You'd need to give them 90 days notice under Oregon Revised Statutes 90.427. 90 days. That's manageable. What if someone tried to refinance your property without permission? Forged signatures on loan documents. His pen stopped moving. That's fraud. Federal crime. Bank fraud. Forgery. You'd be looking at up to 5 years in federal prison. He studied my face. Has someone done this? Hypothetically. Vernon, what's going on? I waited until the nurse checked my vitals and left. I need you to do me a favor. After I'm discharged, I want you to check public records, credit reports. If you can access them legally, Jennifer and Brian's financial situation. Clarence nodded slowly. All right. But Vernon, whatever you're thinking. I'm thinking about protecting what's mine, I said, meeting his eyes. I'm thinking about the house I bought with my own money. I'm thinking about being told not to come home while I'm recovering from a heart attack. I'll make some calls. See what I can find. Open file folder the documentation. The days blurred. Patricia taught me breathing exercises. Dr. Patel explained my medications. I played the role of compliant patient, but my mind worked overtime. On the 5th day, Clarence returned with a manila folder. You're not going to like this, he said. He opened the folder, revealing printouts. Jennifer and Brian have a combined debt load of approximately $239,000. The Lexus is financed for $85,000. Brian has outstanding debts from a failed LLC, something called Parker Consulting Solutions, totaling $120,000. Collection agencies are actively pursuing him. They have 3 maxed credit cards, another $34,000. What about income? Jennifer makes $52,000 annually. Brian hasn't reported consistent income in 3 years. They're drowning. Clarence pulled out the final document. I found a loan application at Key Bank filed 2 weeks ago. It's a refinancing request for your property on Southeast Ankeny Street. The signatures, he pointed. That's not your signature, Vernon. I've seen your handwriting 1,000 times. There it was, cold, documented proof. My heart rate stayed steady. I felt calm, focused. That's a lot of equity to steal, Clarence whispered. That's a lot of motivation to get rid of an inconvenient father, I said, the words tasting like metal. Pull every string you can, Clarence. I want to know everything. Every debt, every failed payment, every legal filing. Can you do that? I can. I'm already on the path. They put me here. I'm just choosing which direction to walk. After Clarence left, I went through my phone gallery. I deleted every image of Jennifer and Brian together. 3 years of memories erased with steady taps of my thumb. When I finished, only older photos remained. Jennifer as a child, Jennifer in college, Jennifer before Brian. Before the debt, before the entitlement. Home sweet home. Dr. Patel discharged me on the 7th day. Take it easy, Mr. Bishop. No strenuous activity. I'll manage, I said. The Uber driver helped me into his Prius. As we turned onto Southeast Ankeny Street, my house came into view, the craftsman gem I'd maintained for decades. In the driveway sat a vehicle I'd never seen before, a black Lexus RX 350, gleaming in the March sunlight. Right here is perfect, I told the driver. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. Jennifer and Brian were in the kitchen. They turned, their faces going pale. Dad, Jennifer said. You're home. Surprise, I said quietly. Hope the party was nice. Jennifer's coffee cup clattered against the granite countertop. Brian stood frozen by the refrigerator, a bottle of craft beer halfway to his lips. The kitchen smelled like expensive Thai takeout. We weren't expecting you, Brian managed. The hospital said another week at least. They said I could recover at home. Figured I'd be more comfortable in my own bed. I moved into the living room, one hand on my chest. New furniture, a massive sectional sofa, a coffee table of reclaimed wood and steel, and a 75-inch flat-screen television. I did the quick math, $12,000 minimum. This is different, I said. Oh, Jennifer laughed, high-pitched and wrong. Yeah, we did some redecorating. The old stuff was so worn out, you know. We thought you'd like the upgrade. Did you now? She flinched. Good. Brian cleared his throat. We were actually going to surprise you when you got back. Make the place feel fresh. Investment in the property value really. Speaking of investments, I said, looking at Brian. That's a nice vehicle outside. Jennifer and Brian exchanged a quick, nervous glance. Brian's confidence flickered back. The Lexus. Yeah, got a great deal on it. Part of building the right image for my consulting business. Clients expect a certain level of success, you know? Which consulting business is this? The photography one, or the coffee one, or the lifestyle brand? I lowered myself onto their new sofa. Hard to keep track. His face reddened. This is different. Tech consulting. Real money in it. I've got 3 clients lined up already. I pulled out my phone, making a show of checking something. Must be doing well then. That's what, 60,000 for the SUV? 55, Jennifer said quickly. And we financed it, obviously. Everyone finances cars now, Dad. It's smart money management. Smart money management from a woman who'd maxed out 3 credit cards trying to steal my house that I let the silence stretch, watched them fidget. Where's my workshop? I asked. Another glance passed between them. About that, Brian started. We converted it into a home gym. Jennifer's been really committed to her fitness journey, and with my back problems, I needed proper equipment. Your back problems? I didn't remember any accident, but then they'd stopped telling me things around the time they stopped pretending to be grateful. And my bedroom? Your bedroom? Jennifer laughed again, that same nervous pitch. It's still your bedroom, Dad. What are you talking about? I stood slowly, headed for the stairs. They followed me like anxious puppies. The stairs took effort, my legs felt weak, my chest tight. I wasn't faking that part. My bedroom door stood open. Inside, I found Brian's desk setup. 3 monitors, a fancy gaming chair, cables running everywhere. My bed had been pushed against the wall. Boxes of my belongings, photo albums, my old city planning awards, personal papers, were stacked in the corner like garbage waiting for pickup. This is temporary, Jennifer said from the doorway. Brian just needed the space for his workstation and you were in the hospital, so we figured. You figured I wouldn't notice. Where exactly was I supposed to sleep? The guest room's all made up for you, Brian said. It's actually nicer, quieter, away from street noise. The guest room in my own house. I set the box down and turned to face them. Jennifer's eyes were wet, but I couldn't tell if the tears were real or tactical. I need to rest, I said quietly. Long day. They practically fled. I stood in what used to be my bedroom and looked at Brian's setup. On one of the monitors, I could just make out senders in his email inbox. Collection agencies, multiple credit card companies, something from the Oregon Department of Revenue. Interesting. Playing the part. Over the next week, I played my part perfectly. Weak, recovering, mostly staying in my room. I took my medications where they could see, winced when I moved too fast. I let them think the heart attack had broken something fundamental inside me. Jennifer started making breakfast. Not well, but she tried. Brian asked about my appointments, pretending to care. I watched them, learning their patterns. Brian slept until noon. Jennifer left for work at 8:30 a.m. When they thought I was napping, they argued. Always about money. The Lexus payment is $1,200 a month, Brian. $1,200. Jennifer hissed one afternoon. So ask him for help. He's got money. I'm not asking my father for more money. Why not? You've done it before. He always folds. Always folds. The word stung more than my chest pain. He's different since the hospital, Jennifer said. Colder. He's old and sick, probably feeling sorry for himself. Give it time, he'll come around. I waited until I heard them go out. Then I went downstairs and looked through the mail they'd left on the counter. A notice from Key Bank about their mortgage application. Additional documentation required. The refinancing attempt. Clarence had been right. I photographed everything with my phone, every bill, every late notice, every credit card statement, building my case piece by piece. The new will. That Sunday, Clarence came over for coffee. Brian and Jennifer were out. You look better, Clarence said. Appearances can be deceiving. Did you find a good real estate attorney? Linda Pierce works out of the Pearl District. She's expensive, but she's a shark. He gave me a business card. I told her you might call. What about the refinancing? Bank rejected it last week. Documentation irregularities. Basically, they figured out the signature was forged. He stirred his coffee slowly. That should be the end of it. But Vernon, if you wanted to pursue charges. Not yet. I want them to understand the full scope of their situation first, which is hopeless. I smiled. $239,000 in debt. Aging father who's supposed to be their safety net. And now their safety net is waking up. I heard a car door slam. They were back. You should go, I said. Don't want them thinking we're conspiring. Aren't we? We're old friends having coffee, that's all. He left through the back door just as Jennifer and Brian came in the front. I pulled out my wallet, made a show of checking my bank balance on my phone, making sure the screen was visible. $245,000 in my main checking account. Enough to catch their attention, not enough to show my full hand. Thinking about treating myself, I said. Maybe a trip somewhere. Alaska perhaps. Always wanted to see the glaciers before they melt. Jennifer's eyes were locked on that number. Alaska sounds amazing, Brian said, suddenly enthusiastic. You know, I've been looking into adventure travel consulting, growing market. Could give you some recommendations. That's generous. But I prefer planning my own adventures. Always have. That night, I called Linda Pierce's office and left a message. Then I opened my banking app and did something I'd been planning since the hospital. I created a new will. Everything to the Portland Veterans Foundation. Every dollar, every asset, every last paperclip. Jennifer and Brian would get nothing. I saved the document, emailed it to myself, and printed 3 copies. I left one on the kitchen counter where they'd find it in the morning. Then I took my medication, closed my eyes, and slept better than I had in 3 years. The confrontation. The screaming started at 6:30 a.m. I was already awake, sitting in the guest room with my coffee. What the hell is this? Jennifer's voice cracked through the house like a whip. Brian's response was muffled, but the tone carried panic. I counted to 30 before going downstairs. Jennifer stood in the kitchen holding my will like it was evidence in a murder trial. Her face was blotchy red. Brian paced behind her. Morning, I said, pouring myself a fresh cup. Sleep well. What is this? Jennifer thrust the papers at me. The Portland Veterans Foundation. You're leaving everything to charity? Yes, everything. The house, the retirement accounts, all of it, every penny. I took a sip of coffee. They do good work. Help soldiers who actually sacrificed for something larger than themselves. Brian stopped pacing. You can't be serious. We're your family. Are you? I met his eyes. Funny. Family usually shows up when someone's in the ICU. Family doesn't tell their father not to come home. Jennifer's tears came faster. I was upset, Dad. I said things I didn't mean. You know how I get when I'm stressed. I know exactly how you get. You get stressed about money, about maintaining appearances, about keeping up with everyone else who's actually earning what they spend. That's not fair, she said. Neither is forging someone's signature on a refinancing application. The silence could have cracked concrete. Jennifer's mouth opened, closed. Brian went pale. I don't know what you're talking about, Brian said, but his voice cracked on the last word. KeyBank flagged your application. Documentation irregularities. I pulled out my phone and showed them the photograph I'd taken of the bank notice. Turns out banks are pretty good at detecting forgery. Who knew? Jennifer sank into a chair. Dad, please let me explain. Explain what? How you tried to steal my house. How you've been bleeding me dry for 3 years. I set my coffee down. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to get jobs, real ones. You're going to pay your own bills. And you're going to start looking for somewhere else to live. You're kicking us out? Jennifer's voice climbed to a register I hadn't heard since she was 13. We have nowhere to go. Should have thought about that before treating me like an ATM with a heartbeat. Brian stepped forward. You're being unreasonable. We made one mistake. One. I laughed, cold and sharp. Let's count, shall we? The $15,000 in credit card debt I paid off. The $8,000 espresso machine, the bathroom renovation, the photography equipment, the lifestyle brand supplies. Should I continue? Those were investments in our future, Brian insisted. No, those were investments in your delusions. I picked up my phone again. Linda Pierce, real estate attorney. I have a meeting with her this afternoon. Want to guess what we'll be discussing? Jennifer stood abruptly. You wouldn't actually evict us. Your own daughter. My own daughter told me not to come home while I was recovering from a heart attack. I kept my voice level. That daughter doesn't exist anymore. I'm just protecting my assets from strangers who happen to share my last name. The warning. Over the next week they tried everything. Jennifer brought home overcooked pot roast and tried to make small talk. Brian attempted to organize my tools, destroying 40 years of careful arrangement in the process. "You're making this impossible, Vernon," Brian said, frustration simmering. "It's Mr. Bishop," I said. "And you can leave my tools alone." On Thursday afternoon I met Linda Pierce. She was sharp and efficient. I laid out the whole situation. "Oregon's landlord-tenant law is clear," she said. "They're tenants at will. Since they've been there over a year, you need to give 90 days notice." "And the forgery?" "That's criminal. Bank fraud, identity theft, forgery. You could file a police report. The Multnomah County DA would probably be interested." "Is that the route you want to take?" she asked. I thought about Jennifer at 7, then Jennifer at 22. Then I thought about her face on that phone call. "Let's start with the eviction," I said. "The criminal charges are leverage if they don't cooperate." I wrote her a check for the retainer. Back home I could hear Jennifer and Brian arguing. "He's not going to budge," Brian said. "The old man's lost it." "He's not lost anything. He's punishing us for what? Being family? Using resources that would have been ours anyway." Jennifer's voice cracked. "I messed up, Brian. I really messed up. So fix it. Cry more, apologize better. Old people always forgive their kids eventually." I opened the front door loudly. "How was your appointment?" Jennifer asked, syrupy sweet. "Productive. Attorneys drawing up formal eviction notices. You'll receive them early next week." "You're really doing this?" Brian said. "Did you think I wasn't?" "I think you're making a mistake." He stepped forward. "We could make this very difficult for you. Elder abuse claims, competency hearings." "Are you threatening me?" "I'm stating facts. Courts don't look kindly on people who kick out family members, especially elderly people who might not be thinking clearly after medical trauma." I smiled. "By all means try. You'll need an attorney for that. Wonder how you'll pay for one given your debt situation." Jennifer grabbed Brian's arm. "Stop. Just stop." She turned to me, genuine fear in her eyes. "Dad, please. Can we talk about this?" I moved toward the stairs. "You had 3 years to talk to me like I mattered. Now I'm done listening." That night, I pulled out my phone and recorded 30 seconds of their desperate arguing. Just insurance. Then I rolled over and went to sleep, the sound of their panic playing like a lullaby. The storm breaks. The eviction notices arrived on a Tuesday morning via certified mail. I watched from the kitchen window as Jennifer signed for the thick manila envelope. She opened it on the porch, and her face went from confused to horrified. Brian came inside like a storm, slamming the door. "This is insane. You can't just throw us out on the street." "I'm not throwing you anywhere," I said, stirring my oatmeal calmly. "I'm giving you 90 days to find alternate housing. That's more than fair." "Fair?" Jennifer's voice broke. "We've lived here for 3 years. We have rights. You have the right to rent an apartment like every other adult in America. Consider this your eviction notice and your wake-up call." Brian dropped into a chair, running calculations. 3 months, security deposits, moving costs. They'd need at least $8,000 upfront. Money they didn't have. "Where are we supposed to go?" Jennifer asked. "Do you have any idea how expensive rent is in Portland?" "I do actually. Checked Zillow last night. 2-bedroom apartments run about $1,400 a month. Better start budgeting." "This is revenge," Brian said. "Pure revenge. You're punishing us for one mistake." "Multiple mistakes. And yes, it's accountability. Novel concept, I know." Over the following week, they hired an attorney, Marcus Webb, who practiced out of a strip mall. Webb sent Linda a letter demanding we halt eviction proceedings, threatening elder abuse claims. Linda laughed when she read it. "He's fishing. I'll respond with your medical documentation showing full cognitive function and records of all the money you've given them. Shows a pattern of them exploiting you, not the reverse." "How long until court?" "Judge Harrison's docket is backed up. Probably mid-July for the actual eviction hearing." She paused. "Vernon, there's something else. The forgery. We could file criminal charges." I thought about it one last time. 3 to 5 years in prison for Brian. I thought about lying in that ICU bed, listening to Jennifer tell me not to come home. "File it," I said. The police came on a Thursday. 2 detectives, Rodriguez and Thompson. I gave them everything. The bank documents, the forged signature, my actual signature for comparison. Brian was out. Jennifer sat frozen on the new sectional sofa, watching the detectives take notes. "Mrs. Parker," Detective Rodriguez said gently, "did you have knowledge of your husband's attempt to refinance this property?" Jennifer couldn't speak. I'd advise you to speak with an attorney before answering any questions, Detective Thompson added. This is a serious matter. Bank fraud is a federal crime. After they left, Jennifer sat in stunned silence. I made myself a sandwich and ate it at the kitchen table. You called the police on us, she finally said. On your own family. I reported a crime. There's a difference. Brian's going to prison. Do you understand that? Prison. He committed a felony. I folded the newspaper neatly. Actions have consequences. Something I should have taught you better when you were younger. She stood abruptly. You're destroying our lives. No, sweetheart. You destroyed your own lives. I sipped my coffee and waited. Jennifer sat across from me in the quiet corner of the cafe. She had called and asked to meet, saying it wasn't about the house or the eviction. The restitution payment started last week, she began, pulling out a folded paper. We owe you $50,000 over 3 years. That's $1,389 a month. She showed me the payment schedule. I did the math. Between my salary and Brian's warehouse job, after rent, utilities, and food, we have maybe $200 left each month. We can't make the payments. The information settled between us. A statement of fact, not a plea for sympathy. We're going to violate the plea agreement. Brian will go back to court. He'll probably go to prison. Does he know you're telling me this? I asked. He doesn't know I'm here at all. He'd lose it. She looked at me, her eyes older, harder. I wanted you to know that I understand the consequences now. What we did, what it cost, what happens next. No more denying reality. Why tell me? I asked. What do you want from this conversation? Nothing, she said, her voice cracking slightly. I want nothing. I just wanted you to know that I see it now. Who you are, what we took from you. I found more articles online about your work, your career. You testified in front of the state legislature twice. You wrote policy that's still in use today. You saved history, Dad. Real, actual history. And we treated you like you were nobody. Yes, you did. She flinched but didn't look away. I also wanted to apologize. Really apologize. Not the manipulative kind where I'm trying to get something. I'm just sorry for all of it. For the phone call at the hospital, for living off you, for Brian's forgery, for every moment we made you feel small and unimportant. You deserve so much better from me. The words hit harder than expected. I had prepared my emotional armor, but genuine remorse was different. I don't forgive you, I said. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I understand, but I appreciate you saying it, owning it. I finished my coffee. What happens when Brian violates probation? His lawyer says probably a year in county jail for the violation, plus whatever the judge decides about the original charges. Could be 2 years total. She wrapped her arms around herself. I'll divorce him while he's inside. Start over completely. I'm already looking for a second job. Weekends, maybe nights. Anything to get ahead of the debt. You could declare bankruptcy. I could, she shook her head, but that feels like running away again. I caused this debt. I'll pay it. I kept those letters, Jennifer said suddenly. The ones you wrote when I was in college. I read them every night now, trying to remember who I was before I became this person. Is she still in there? Jennifer stood, gathering her things. I'm not sure anymore, but I'm going to try to find out. For me, not for you. I don't expect anything from you, Dad. Not forgiveness, not help, not a relationship. I just wanted you to know that I finally see clearly what we did. That matters to me, even if it doesn't to you. She walked away without looking back, shoulders squared despite the weight of her collapse. Working on the scars. Clarence texted that evening. Heard Jennifer came by. How'd it go? She apologized. Genuinely, I think. Do you think you will eventually forgive her? I stared at my phone. Trust shattered doesn't simply rebuild because someone says sorry. Respect lost takes years to earn back. I don't know, I texted back. Ask me in a year. That night, I sat in my workshop, fully reclaimed now, and worked on the unfinished bookshelf, quarter-sawn oak hand-cut dovetails. 3 years abandoned, now slowly taking shape again. The work felt good, honest, building rather than destroying. My phone buzzed. Linda Pierce. Vernon, just an update. Brian Parker missed his first restitution payment. Probation officer filed a violation report. Court date set for October 15th. Thought you should know. The next domino was falling exactly on schedule. The victory should have felt sweet. Instead, it just felt quiet. Quiet was good enough. October arrived with typical Portland rain. I didn't attend Brian's hearing. Linda called me afterward. 18 months in Multnomah County Detention Center, she said. Judge Harrison was not sympathetic. He starts serving in 2 weeks. And the restitution is still owed in full. Thanks, Linda. Send me your final invoice. 2 days later, Jennifer knocked on my door. She stood on the porch, soaked from the rain. To my surprise, behind her stood Brian. He looked diminished, thinner, gray-faced. Can we come in? Jennifer asked. Please, just for a few minutes. They sat on my old sofa, Brian staring at his hands. Brian has something to say, Jennifer finally said. Brian looked up. His eyes were haunted. I'm going to jail in 12 days. Before I go, I needed to apologize. Really apologize. Not the tactical kind. Go on. I manipulated Jennifer, pushed her to see you as a resource instead of her father. I was drowning in debt. And instead of admitting I'd screwed up, I looked for someone to save me. You were convenient, successful, alone. I saw a mark and I took it. You saw a mark, I corrected. Yes, I saw a mark. I pushed for the refinancing scheme. I forged your signature. He looked at Jennifer. I made the phone call, Jennifer said quietly. That's on me. When you were in the ICU, I was worried about Brian's birthday party. What kind of daughter does that? The kind who lost their way, I said factually. I found out about the forgery the day after you came home, she continued. Brian told me what he'd done. I could have called the police then, protected you. Instead, I chose him over you. That was my decision, my betrayal. I own it. Why now? I asked. Because you deserve to hear it, Brian said. Because I'm going to prison and might not get another chance. Because Jennifer's filing for divorce and starting over, and she needs to face you before she can move forward. He stood. I don't expect forgiveness. You deserve the truth spoken clearly without excuses. He walked to the door. Thank you for not pressing for the maximum sentence. I wasted that chance, but you gave it. That's more than I deserved. A chance to earn it. After Brian left, Jennifer remained on the sofa. I meant what I said at the coffee shop, she finally said. I don't expect anything from you. I just wanted you to hear the full acknowledgement of what we did. What happens after Brian goes to jail? I keep working, keep trying to pay down the restitution. I'm waitressing 3 nights a week now on top of my marketing job, sleeping 5 hours a night, sending every extra dollar toward what we owe you. She pulled out a crumpled envelope. This is the first payment. $200. It's not much, but it's honest. I earned it. I took the envelope. The bills were worn, clearly hard-earned. Keep it. Pay your own rent. Feed yourself. Here's what's going to happen, Jennifer. You're going to pay the court-ordered restitution over the next 3 years. Not to me, to the system. That's justice and it's non-negotiable. But I'm not going to grind you into dust over it. Dad. You're going to rebuild your life. Really rebuild it, not fake it with credit cards. You're going to figure out who you are without Brian, without my money, without anyone's safety net. You're going to become someone your 22-year-old self would recognize. I pulled out a business card. This is my email. Once a month, if you want, you can send me an update. How you're doing, what you're learning, who you're becoming. I'll read them. I might not respond, but I'll read them. She stared at the card. That's more than I deserve. I spent 35 years believing in second chances, in people's capacity to change. I'm not going to stop now. But understand, this isn't forgiveness. Not yet. This is a chance to earn it. If you waste it, there won't be another. Jennifer tucked the card carefully into her pocket. I won't waste it. After she left, I returned to my workshop. The bookshelf waited. I applied the first coat of finish, watching the oil soak into the oak, bringing out the grain's full beauty. You couldn't hide oak's history, you couldn't pretend the hard years hadn't happened. But those hard years made it stronger, more worth preserving. I had protected what was mine, enforced consequences, and stood my ground. The house was mine again. My life was mine again. Justice wasn't always satisfying, but it was fair. The house settled around me. Home. Finally, completely home. Clarence texted, dinner tomorrow. I'll bring the steaks. You're on, I typed back. And bring your good whiskey. Life was moving forward. Not perfect, not healed, but moving. That was enough. That was everything. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.